Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Stephen Flynn is one of those typical SNP politicians who just objects on the principle of objecting, presumably to create some kind of difference between England and Scotland. He certainly doesn't know what he's talking about. But when the subject of immigration was being discussed in Parliament, he stood up and said, "Oh no, these numbers are wrong, it's far too wrong, blah blah blah," and he started just objecting on the principle. However, when he was asked, well, what's your plan for immigration? What are the sort of numbers you want to see for immigration into Scotland? What are your skills levels that you would have? What are your numbers? What would be the minimum wages and things like this? He stood there, open-mouthed like a guppy. Didn't have a clue, because of course he doesn't. He's just objecting on principle and has no information at all as to what he's actually saying. Poor old Beryl, it must be hard going through life being that stupid. But we'll take a look at what he's saying and just show him up as what he is, an ignorant fool with no idea at all what he's talking about. And just not on this subject, on every subject really. But we'll talk about this one because it is just one of those that sort of stumps the poor man. Never mind. Let's have a look. Here goes. Now, I described him as a guppy because he was sort of sitting there like, you know. But I'm looking at this picture and I'm thinking it's more like a bald howler monkey, isn't it? Anyway, Stephen Flynn can't say how many immigrants, they use the word migrants, but nobody's leaving. It's immigrants. Scotland needs, despite criticising the UK government. Apparently, newspapers think that immigrants is charged and is a sort of a term that shouldn't be used. But they are coming in, nobody's leaving. So it is immigrants. Anyway, Stephen Flynn refused to put a number on how many immigrants he believes are needed in Scotland, despite criticising the UK government, whose latest plan is to limit migration. Home Secretary James Cleverly, a most inappropriate name, he's a very stupid man, announced plans on Monday to bring down levels of net migration after a record figure of 775,000 came in 2022. That is a city every year. Where are we housing them? Who's paying? Well, we are, obviously. Anyway, his 5-point plan would stop health and care workers bringing dependents and increase the skilled worker earnings threshold to 38,700, which would also be the minimum income for family visas. The proposals were inevitably criticised by the nationalists who would propose anything. And they just don't like, if anyone suggests anything and it isn't from the SNP, they, on principle, oppose it. They are sometimes shooting themselves in the face because they simply don't want to agree to something which, even if it benefited them, came from England and therefore is no. These people are stupid. We saw an example of that with the offer to help with the NHS. And they said, no, we'll take some of your NHS waiting lists. And Matheson said no, because, we don't want help from England. Meanwhile, people are dying. But that's cool. At least you're dying in Scotland or something. That's how these people think. Morons, aren't they? Anyway, when quizzed on what sort of immigration system he would like to see, the SNP's Commons leader was stumped. Well, say it ain't so. He's not very bright, is he, old Beryl? He doesn't have a clue. He goes through life perpetually perplexed at the pernicious peregrinations of the problems that he faces. Mr. Flynn was also unable to say what sort of numbers he and his party would like to see when asked on BBC Radio Scotland's Good Morning Scotland show. Hasn't got a clue. He literally doesn't know what he's talking about. He just objects on the principle without understanding the sort of the finer details of any issue or problem. The Aberdeen South MP insisted having more people living and working in the economy is a good thing for the tax take in general. Yes, but not if they're coming over here to sit on the dole and go, oh, we want. Anyway, he said, while the numbers coming to the UK were high, the reality is that for Scotland we need more migrants, not fewer. Yes, but it's where you're getting them and what are they able to contribute. Just bringing in lots of people from a certain group of unskilled migrants who are incapable of speaking English, have no skills, have nothing, just to sit there and be handed dole money and houses, while people in Scotland basically can't get a house for love nor money because you're prioritising, people of a certain group over the indigenous population. Seems wrong. And of course that's wrong in law. The UN Charter said that indigenous peoples must always be treated with a higher degree of importance than immigrants. That's actually written in the UN Charters. So if you're not looking after the indigenous people and you're not housing the indigenous people but you're housing immigrants, then you're actually breaking the UN Charter. That is a war crime, not a war crime. That's a crime against humanity. Deal with that one, Beryl. Anyway, asked if he would support unlimited migration, he responded, "What I think we need, particularly for Scotland, is an evidence-based approach for migration." So he is not capable of saying no. So that means, yes, he supports unlimited migration. He wants Scotland to be filled with certain people from a certain group and flood the whole country with it. Much to the whenever a group moves into a new territory, the people who are already there suffer. We know this because Britain did it so many times. We went to America and look what happened to the Plains Indians. We went to Australia, look what happened to the Aborigines. Wherever an invading force comes, the people who are already there suffer. He's too stupid to know that. Anyway, push for a figure. Beryl said, "I don't think it's for me to set an arbitrary figure on a hypothetical that will come at some point in the future." Are you kidding me? You're in the SNP. Everything you do is an arbitrary figure. You never think things through. You never pick a number. You never sit there with scientific or rational basis. You just pluck numbers from your arse. It's where you speak from most of the time as well, it seems. He said he insisted that migrants would help support public services. No, they wouldn't. They'd be a drain on public services. But was pushed on the impact more people could have on the likes of the NHS. And he said that's why we need more migrants in order to increase the tax take to boost the productivity. So hang on then. What you're saying is, yes, the NHS is suffering because there's too many people, but if we bring in even more people, it will help the NHS. That is illogical. It is mad. It is stupid. And it goes to show why the likes of Beryl Flynn needs to be thrown out of office. The man is an absolute danger and a lunatic. Anyway, Mr. Cleverly has arrived in Rwanda. Will he be staying? Where he will meet the country's Foreign Affairs Minister, Vincent Biruta, to sign the new asylum treaty and discuss the key steps on the deal. The treaty will address more concerns raised in the Supreme Court's ruling, including assurances that Rwanda will simply not remove anybody transferred under the partnership to another country, the Home Office said. Now, we'll say that this went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court shut it down because it's saying it's against the European Convention on Human Rights, sending people to Rwanda. France, however, has just suspended its membership of the European Convention on Human Rights so that it can start throwing its immigrants out. Hey, if it's good enough for France, and it's good enough for Poland, and it's good enough for Holland, and it's good enough for Sweden, it's got to be good enough for Britain. Get out of the European Convention on Human Rights, or at least suspend it, and throw the illegals out. That would help. Anyway, where are we going to be putting nearly 1 million people a year? In your house. That's where. If you're in a council house, imagine this. Imagine you're in a council house in Scotland and they say, "Oh, we need your council house back. We have some immigrants that we need to house by law." And they throw you out on the street and put immigrants in your house. Don't think that's happening? Miss one rent payment. See what happens. Anyway, I'm going to stop there, come up, and we will round off the video. And look at that face. God, gormless, isn't it? It's very hard arguing with someone like Beryl because I can't think down to his level. It must be very hard going through life, being as stupid as he is, not understanding the basic truths of reality. How can you possibly say you will help the NHS by bringing in even more people, even more low-skilled people? Because highly skilled people won't be going there. What you're going to end up is the dross. And yet they apparently are going to be the saviours of the NHS. We've just seen how bad the NHS is in the previous video. The man is a moron. And worse, he sits and objects to things and he doesn't understand even what he's objecting to. This is just dangerous. The fools and morons like the likes of Beryl need to be thrown out and stop voting for dumb mothers like that. Please stop voting for idiots. Put someone in who's got a bit of a brain, been around, has had a real job. Anyway, I shall stop there because I will get angry if I keep on about him. He's so thick. Till next time, stay safe, stay well. Do please hit the subscribe button. Definitely hit the like button. And I will speak to you later. Bye.